Yo. Baby Yoda. How's it going? What's up? Obviously, I haven't released a video in some time. My previous video was August of 2020, and the one before that was July 2020, and I only released 2 videos in 2020 overall, so my output has just been stellar and incredible. But one of my New Year's resolutions has been to try to make videos again and to try to do videos, and it was a lot of work even just pressing record on this video and getting it started. Before I get into what this video is about, I'd like to talk a little bit about my previous video, which was called Life Lessons from Michael Brooks. Michael Brooks was a very special individual to me, a huge inspiration in many ways. He was very intelligent, but also very funny, and at heart had a heart of gold and was a very kind man. So I made a tribute to him called Life Lessons from Michael Brooks. Now, I've paid so little attention to my channel, and I've been doing such little management of what's been going on online with me, that I hadn't even noticed that for the past 4 months, the video had been blocked worldwide, so no one had been able to see it. I was wondering, like, why does this video have so few views? I guess people are just not that interested in Michael Brooks's life, and it's really quite sad. But actually, yeah, it had been blocked for 4 months and not viewable by anybody, so that's going to put a bit of a hamper on your ability to succeed on YouTube. If your video is 100% blocked in every single country. The offending clip which caused it to get blocked was Dave Rubin talking about the post office on Joe Rogan's podcast, The Joe Rogan Experience, starring Joe Rogan, where he was saying that the post office was bad because anything run by the government is terrible, and proceeded to illustrate his point by pointing out something positive that the post office does, which is allow you to send livestock, such as the chickens Dave Rubin was tending to, through the mail, and that you can't do that anywhere else. And that was his argument as to why the post office was bad, because it's great, which is a big idea, the biggest idea. I can't get my brain around those sorts of ideas, too big for me.
And I have to say that my brain is still in recovery mode from taking in so many high-level important ideas. If the dial of ideas was turned to low for the last few years, it's quickly moving into the hot position.
And this clip was followed by Michael laughing about it, being like, he illustrated his point by saying a positive story about the post office. Oh, what a smart man. And the clip of Dave Rubin caused my entire video to be blocked, and I noticed after I checked Twitter and saw that Secular Talk, or Carl Kalinske, had tweeted out my video and said it was great, and I tried to click on the link and it was blocked. So I removed that part, and now the video just goes directly to Michael laughing. Without the actual clip from Dave Rubin. However, Michael kind of explains what he's laughing about, so it's possible to understand that he's laughing at Dave Rubin's terrible post office argument without actually seeing the clip. It's a little bit more jarring, but I had to do that so that the video is viewable, so if you want to go back and watch that video, it now exists for you. And it was August. That's the last time I made a video, so yes. Now, this video. Let's talk about this video. So I wanted to call this video the Trump era, the most boring period of politics, but that was way too long and just wouldn't work. So instead I'm just calling it the Trump era. And this video is about why I believe that the Trump era of politics has been the most boring and brain-numbing period of politics that I've ever experienced in my lifetime. Now, I think it's pretty ironic timing, because actually the most interesting and exciting period of Trump's presidency is occurring right now, and that is that he's being impeached for the second time. Everything's falling apart completely for the Trump and the MAGA movement. They're all scattering, and they're all kind of terrified about what's going on with their political movement. Many of the people are trying to cover their asses.
That he's a jackass.
Really?
That he's bringing his name down and he's not helping the process, and he shouldn't be commander-in-chief. That's what he's selling. Here's what you're buying. He's a race-baiting, xenophobic, religious bigot. He doesn't represent my party. He doesn't represent the values that the men and women who wear the uniform are fighting for. I've been in the Air Force for 33 years. I retired this June. If I'm Barack Obama and a Democrat, I would do everything I could to nominate Donald Trump. He's disparaged women. He has an 80% disapproval rating among Hispanics. At the end of the day, he would be the most flawed nominee in the history of the Republican Party.
6.5 hours later.
Mr. President, hats off to you for winning the election. You deserve to start securing our border. You're right about a wall. We need a wall. We need to start the wall now.
He's a war hero.
5.5 years.
He's a war hero because he was captured. I like people that weren't captured, okay? I hate to tell you.
I am not going to give up on the idea of working with this president. The best way I can honor John McCain is help my country.
Do you think that he is a racist?
Absolutely not. Let me tell you what. You could be dark as charcoal and lily white. It doesn't matter as long as you're nice to him.
All I can say is I've never heard this before. I'm going to judge the president by the results, and I like what he's doing with judges, what he's doing with the military, what he did with taxes, and that will matter in my world. In my world, when the New York Times speak, most of us don't listen.
We can now project that former Vice President Joe Biden has been elected President of the United States. He is President-elect Joseph Robinette Biden.
And then we're stuck with a president who lost the election by a lot, and we have to live with that for 4 more years. We're just not going to let that happen.
5 minutes later.
Trump and I, we've had a hell of a journey. I hate it being this way. Oh my God, I hate it. From my point of view, he's been a consequential president. But today, first thing you'll see. All I can say is count me out. Enough is enough. I've tried to be helpful.
Wow.
You suck.
So acquittal will happen in about 2 hours. Exoneration comes when President Trump gets reelected because the people of the United States are fed up with this crap. But the damage you have done will be long-lasting. Abuse of power. You're impeaching the President of the United States for suspending foreign aid for a short period of time that they eventually received ahead of schedule to leverage an investigation that never happened.
I have told you the best I can. There's no doubt these are high crimes, in my opinion. And this is a hard decision for our country, but when I first spoke to you, I thought we would be better off if Bill Clinton left office. And I want the chance to prove to you why. Give me a chance to prove to you why I believe that, why my colleagues voted our conscience to get this case to where it should be, not swept under a rug, but in a trial to disposition. I have lost no sleep worrying about the fact that Bill Clinton may have to be removed from office because of his conduct. I have lost tons of sleep thinking he may get away with what he did.
Wanka.
And other people are embracing all of this madness.
We do need an investigation into irregularities, fraud. We do need a way forward together. We need election security reforms. I bet my friends on the other side of the aisle don't disagree with that. We need to find a way to move forward on that together so that the American people from both parties, all walks of life, can have confidence in their elections.
And let me be clear, this objection is for the state of Arizona, but it is broader than that. It is an objection for all 6 of the contested states to have a credible, objective, impartial body hear the evidence and make a conclusive determination. That would benefit both sides. That would improve legitimacy of this election.
Mr. President, I and 55 other members of the United States House of Representatives object to the electoral votes of the state of Nevada in order to protect the lawful votes of Nevada and all other American citizens.
It's just a crazy time, you know, just seeing how utterly bonkers everybody is and all of the contradictory points of view which are being put out there. You know, people on the left arguing with each other.
People are saying that I need to be nicer to people to get on board with Medicare for all. They're supposed to be being fucking nice to me. Do you realize that? Do you realize you have it backwards? Do you realize if the DSA has a platform that they want to implement and I have a media platform, they could use it because we agree on it? I'm not supposed to fucking court them. They're supposed to court me. I jump on board their idea and they come and attack me.
Okay.
I jump on board the Justice Democrats' idea and they come and attack me. That's what they're fucking doing.
All right. I mean,
there you go.
I'm sorry. It's just like full on demented.
People on the right going after each other.
I'm happy to be primaried again.
If you weren't even voted in legally.
Trump is a juggernaut. Your legacy is nothing. This is going to be an awkward flight. You might want to change it.
Yeah.
It's going to be an awkward one.
Support your conservative constituents.
Traitor! 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 Resign, Mitt! We want to know your connection to Burisma and Joe Biden.
Of course, the ongoing left and right kerfuffles that never end, all of these conflicting arguments, and it's just like open warfare politically at the moment. I mean, in terms of American politics. So it sounds like the most interesting time, but I think it's actually the most interesting time of the most boring period of politics that I've ever experienced and that I've ever seen in terms of what's going on in America. I want to provide a little bit of backstory about this and explore the reason why I think that it is, in fact, a very boring period in general, the Trump era. And I think that my general levels of burnout have kind of reflected that, because in the past I would have been a lot more impassioned and excited to talk about politics and political ideas, so to speak. Let's get into it. Now, I may have already been over all of this stuff on my channel before, but I'm going to talk about it again, which is just, where am I looking? I keep looking at my light instead of the camera, so alright, hi camera. So I may have talked about this before, and I'm sure I have, about my evolution politically and how I got into politics and I got interested, particularly when it comes to presidential politics and American politics. But here's another brief version of it. Growing up, when I was under 10 or just above 10, around there, Bill Clinton was the president of the United States. And I didn't know anything about America, and I didn't know anything about presidents. And I remember seeing Bill Clinton on television and people talking about Bill Clinton and just thinking, that guy's the president. You know, that's a guy that people respect. They see Bill Clinton and they think, that's the president. He walks into the room and everyone's like, oh, the president's here. And he says a bunch of shit and everyone's like, you know, that was interesting and we respect it, even if we disagree, because that was the president. Of course, you know, in my pre-adolescent mind, I had no idea about all of the divisions and all that kind of thing, and I vaguely remember hearing about the Monica Lewinsky scandal and how he got blown in the Oval Office and all that shit, and I still thought after that, even after he lied and said I did not have sexual relations with this woman.
But I want to say one thing to the American people. I want you to listen to me. I'm going to say this again. I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky. I never told anybody to lie, not a single time, never. These allegations are false.
While my answers were legally accurate, I did not volunteer information. Indeed, I did have a relationship with Miss Lewinsky that was not appropriate. In fact, it was wrong. It constituted a critical lapse in judgment and a personal failure on my part, for which I am solely and completely responsible.
I still kind of felt that people respected the office of the presidency and respected the president himself just as an important man who had some sort of integrity, and I thought he was kind of being attacked a little bit. And I didn't know anything about the Republicans. I don't think I even knew like what the GOP meant or what it stood for. But I just thought, okay, he's been in a bit of a scandal, and obviously there's some problems going on with Mr. Clinton, but everyone still generally respects him and respects the presidency, and I think that was kind of true. He was still like the president. It's just he had a difficult time. And again, I didn't know anything about any of the substance of what was occurring at the time. I didn't know anything about the Glass-Steagall Act and removing that and allowing banks to gamble with people's money. I didn't know anything about any of the conflicts or the wars that were going on at the time. I didn't know anything about neoliberalism and that kind of centrist mentality and philosophy that Bill Clinton represented. I just vaguely knew, okay, that's the president. So that was my idea of America growing up, that the American president was just someone who was seen as respected and important, and when he walked in the room, everyone was like, that's the president. And when you saw him on TV, you're like, that's the president. Obviously, I had a very sophisticated understanding at the time. Then I was getting into my teenage years, and along came George W. Bush.
Mr. President, you've been a governor and a president, so you have a unique experience looking at it from two directions. What do you think tribal sovereignty means in the 21st century, and how do we resolve conflicts between tribes and the federal and state governments?
Yeah. Tribal sovereignty means that. It's sovereign. I mean, you've been given sovereignty, and you're viewed as a sovereign entity.
Okay.
And therefore, the relationship between the federal government and tribes is one between sovereign entities.
Now, pre-9/11, or September 11th, for those who have not heard of it, well, okay, some context. There was a terrorist attack on September 11th, 2001, where they blew up the World Trade Center and stuff. If you're out of the loop, I remember when I was told about 9/11, I was in high school, and I was still in bed because I hadn't gotten up for school yet. My dad ran into my room and was like, Tim, they've hit the World Trade Center. A plane's hit the building, it's incredible. Then he ran out of the room again, and I just thought, what's the World Trade Center? And I just imagined some small office building or something. And then 10 minutes later, my dad ran in again to say, the second plane has hit the other World Trade Center. Oh my God, Tim, this is crazy. And like, he ran out again and again. I was like, what's the World Trade Center? Later, when I finally saw footage of it, I did recognize the building and realized, oh, the World Trade Center. So that's how informed I was. Pre-9/11, I didn't really think much of George Bush because he didn't seem very interesting and people didn't really talk about him very much. He was just sort of hanging around before that attack happened, just being slightly mediocre. So I didn't really have any thoughts about George Bush. But when 9/11 happened, everything changed about politics. Everything became so intense and so verbose and also so fast-moving.
America today is on bended knee in prayer for the people whose lives were lost here, for the workers who work here, for the families who mourn. This nation stands with the good people of New York City and New Jersey and Connecticut as we mourn the loss of thousands of our citizens. I can hear you. I can hear you. The rest of the world hears you. And the people who knock these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
All of a sudden, everything was on this track towards war.
Americans are asking, who attacked our country? The evidence we have gathered all points to a collection of loosely affiliated terrorist organizations known as Al-Qaeda. There are thousands of these terrorists in more than 60 countries. They are recruited from their own nations and neighborhoods and brought to camps in places like Afghanistan, where they are trained in the tactics of terror. Our war on terror begins with Al-Qaeda, but it does not end there. It will not end until every terrorist group of global reach has been found, stopped, and defeated. For more than a decade, the United States and other nations have pursued patient and honorable efforts to disarm the Iraqi regime without war. That regime pledged to reveal and destroy all its weapons of mass destruction as a condition for ending the Persian Gulf War in 1991. Since then, the world has engaged in 12 years of diplomacy. We have passed more than a dozen resolutions in the United Nations Security Council. We have sent hundreds of weapons inspectors to oversee the disarmament of Iraq.
our good faith has not been returned to eliminate weapons of mass destruction.
Why you always lying? Oh my God. Stop your fucking lying.
And I remember my teenage years, I don't know, 13, 14 or something, watching on TV the bombing of Baghdad and all of the explosions. And I remember seeing Baghdad Bob, who was this official in the Iraqi government, constantly saying the Americans are not winning and we're repelling them. And it was very comedic, and he became an ongoing meme.
There is no presence of the American columns in the city of Baghdad at all. They are beginning to commit suicide at the walls of Baghdad, and I would encourage them to increase the rate of committing suicide.
Just really exposing the extent to which spokespeople for a government will lie, which is a massive amount.
I will never lie to you. You have my word on that.
It was kind of like a guy in the Titanic saying, the ship's going to be fine, don't worry about it. But that was really impactful on my mind. I didn't really understand it at the time. I didn't really know what was going on. But in the years following that, it became very clear that the Bush administration had completely lied about weapons of mass destruction.
We know they have weapons of mass destruction. We know they have active programs. There isn't any debate about it. So the idea that if you had an appropriate inspection regime, that they'd come back and say you were wrong is so far beyond anyone's imagination that it's not something I think about.
Less than a teaspoonful of dry anthrax in an envelope shut down the United States Senate in the fall of 2001. This forced several hundred people to undergo emergency medical treatment and killed 2 postal workers, just from an amount just about this quantity that was inside of an envelope. Iraq declared 8,500 liters of anthrax, but UNSCOM estimates that Saddam Hussein could have produced 25,000 liters. If concentrated into this dry form, this amount would be enough to fill tens upon tens of thousands of teaspoons. And Saddam Hussein has not verifiably accounted for even 1 teaspoonful of this deadly material.
Simply stated, there is no doubt that Saddam Hussein now has weapons of mass destruction. There is no doubt that he is amassing them to use them against our friends, against our allies, and against us.
It appears that there were not weapons of mass destruction there.
You said you knew where they were.
I did not.
We know where they are. They're in the area around Tikrit and Baghdad and east, west, south, and north somewhat.
And they invaded an entire country based on lies, based on this vendetta that they seem to have, this dogma and belief that they had to tackle Iraq and take it down and get rid of Saddam and impose freedom in that country, which is a little bit similar to the obsession that conservatives have with Iran to this day. They've just obsessed with this idea that they're going to go to Iran and impose all their freedom and shit. So that's why everyone's like, we need to avoid war with Iran as much as possible, because it'll be like Iraq times 20 or more, or better maths. So as all of this malfeasance and corruption to do with Iraq was coming clear, George Bush was also visibly a very stupid man.
These immigrants have helped transform 13 small colonies into a great and growing nation of more than 300 people. I oppose breaching those dams. I know the human being and fish can coexist peacefully. Our enemies are innovative and resourceful, and so are we. They never stop thinking about new ways to harm our country and our people, and neither do we. We got an issue in America. Too many good docs are getting out of business. Too many OBGYNs aren't able to practice their love with women all across this country. Teach a child to read, and he or her will be able to pass a literacy test. If you're a single mother with 2 children, which is the toughest job in America as far as I'm concerned, and you're working hard to put food on your family, find out that the literacy level of our children are appalling. I hear there's rumors on the internets
And one of the things that I've used on the Google is to pull up maps. I have filters on internets. There's an old saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, "Fool me once, shame on you." If fool me, we can't get fooled again. I remember meeting a mother of a child who was abducted by the North Koreans right here in the Oval Office. Families is where our nation finds hope, where wings take dream.
He was just an absolute embarrassment, and I spent my teenage years completely disillusioned of the idea that the president had to be a respectful person who was intelligent, that they had to be honest in any way, even though it seemed Clinton lied. It did seem like generally he had a bit of integrity or some ethics of some kind, and that seemed completely missing in George Bush.
Major combat operations in Iraq have ended. In the Battle of Iraq, the United States and our allies have prevailed.
I found that the president could be a puppet of other people. Paul Wolfowitz and Donald Rumsfeld, Dick Cheney, they were basically running George Bush, but at the same time, he was a very feckless and craven and cowardly man of very low intelligence, who was extremely ignorant. And I just thought, wow, you know, the president can be a laughingstock, and America, I guess, is not so great as everybody seems to say.
And what I'm proposing is that there be clarity in the law so that our professionals will have no doubt that that which they're doing is legal. And so the piece of legislation I sent up there provides our professionals that which is needed to go forward. The first question that we've got to ask is, do we need the program? I believe we do need the program, and I detailed in a speech in the East Room what the program has yielded. And there's the kind of information we get when we interrogate people within the law.
The brutality is shocking. The report reveals at least 5 detainees were subjected to what it calls rectal feeding, interrogation procedures that went on for months. At least one detainee died from hypothermia. One detainee had his lunch pureed and poured into his rectum. He eventually attempted to cut his wrist, chew into his arm, and cut a vein in his foot. Much of the information kept from President George W. Bush's own Secretary of State. Internal CIA records called Khalid Sheikh Mohammed's waterboarding 183 times a series of near drownings. Torture that wasn't even effective, according to the report.
It helps yield information necessary for us to be able to do our job.
Look at this. This is an absolute fucking disaster. What a train wreck. I remember when George Bush left office, his helicopter's taking off, and people were just cheering and clapping because they were like, the disaster's over. Thank God. This fucker is out of office. What a terrible president. And it seems like, you know, we've forgotten that. We've forgotten how absolutely fucking terrible George Bush was, but I guess younger people than me, they didn't really live through that. They didn't really have an idea of exactly how bad it was. For the first 2-3 years of Trump, I was saying to myself, well, he's still not as bad as George Bush. And it took a lot of work for him to be as bad, if not worse, than George Bush. It's still difficult for me to say, but I can at least say that he's kind of achieved that level at this point. So teenage Tim, which is me, was becoming more and more disillusioned. It's the second time I've used that word. Could expand that vocabulary. With American presidents, the system of government over there, it seems like over time, it was a slow degradation in my esteem for American government. This idea that America is exceptional was eroded over the course of the Bush administration, I think in the eyes of many people around the world. But then Obama came along, and that was like a new thing.
I believe this country will reclaim its promise, and out of this long political darkness, a brighter day will come. Thank you very much, everybody. God bless you.
When the American people are determined that something is going to happen, then it happens. And if they are disaffected and cynical and fearful and told that it can't be done, then it doesn't. I'm running for president because I want to tell them, yes, we can.
Young and old, rich and poor, Democrat and Republican, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, Native American, gay, straight, disabled and not disabled, Americans who sent a message to the world that we have never been just a collection of individuals or a collection of red states and blue states. We are and always will be the United States of America.
Very exciting. There's an African-American president, and I think that couldn't really have been understated. If Hillary Clinton had won, it would have been the first female president, so either way that it went there would have been historic. Obama talked a big progressive game, but it remained to be seen how he would really stack up to his promises on the campaign trail of being incredibly progressive and left-wing, and a big government guy, providing some nice, sexy handouts to people, which is what I'm all about. Give me that money.
I'm just going to give our viewers a quick run-through of what items poor families in America have. 99% of them have a refrigerator.
No! But I remember the night that I actually watched his inauguration. I was at my friend's house, and we were catching up on everything that was going on. And I turned to my friend and said, what do you think of Obama? Like, what do you think's going to change or how things are going to be? And he looked at me straight in the eye and he said, nothing's going to change. And I said to him, that's really cynical. You know, that's just like really pessimistic. Obama obviously cares a lot about people. He's going to be progressive. He didn't lie about being progressive. He's going to be a very progressive president. And I remember about a year later when he pre-surrendered on extending the Bush-era tax cuts with the Republicans. And he basically said, you know, we could try to get a better deal by actually negotiating, but then there's going to be no wins for the American people. So the important thing that we need to do now is pre-surrender before we've even started negotiating. And I remember how early that was in the process.
Hold on a second, Ben. This isn't the politics of the moment. This has to do with what can we get done right now. So the issue, here's the choice. It's very stark. We can't get my preferred option through the Senate right now. As a consequence, if we don't get my option through the Senate right now, and we do nothing, then on January 1st of 2011, the average family is going to see their taxes go up about $3,000. Number two, at the end of this month, 2 million people will lose their unemployment insurance. Now, I have an option, which is to say, you know what, I'm going to keep fighting a political fight, which I can't win in the Senate. And by the way, there are going to be more Republican senators in the Senate next year sworn in than there are currently. So the likelihood that the dynamic's going to improve for us getting my preferred option through the Senate will be diminished. I've got an option of just holding fast to my position, and as a consequence, 2 million people may not be able to pay their bills, and tens of millions of people who are struggling right now are suddenly going to see their paychecks smaller. Or, alternatively, what I can do is I can say that I am going to stick to my position that those folks get relief, that people get help for unemployment insurance, and I will continue to fight before the American people to make the point that the Republican position is wrong.
I yield. Please, no more.
It's basically like the Republicans said, we want to extend the tax cuts. And Obama said, yeah, we'll do it. You know, because even having a counter proposal would be divisive. And we're losers. We're going to lose with anything to do with negotiations to do with the GOP and Republicans. So I give up. Yep, you got it. And that was when I knew my friend was right. About a year into the Obama presidency, I was like, oh, shit. Yes, he is a fucking neoliberal. He's just going to surrender. He's going to give up because he doesn't have the fight in him that the campaigning Obama had. And that was just true, man. Like, he was very feckless and very weak.
The OLC memos that were released reflected, in my view, us losing our moral bearings. That's why I've discontinued those enhanced interrogation programs. For those who carried out some of these operations within the four corners of legal opinions or guidance that had been provided from the White House. I do not think it's appropriate for them to be prosecuted.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Not very inspiring or exciting, but respectable. You know, you could look at Obama and say, okay, it's a decent guy who's intelligent, and I can respect him. But by that point, I'd kind of figured out how cynical politics is, and how it's all just a game, and it's all just a front. And it took me a long time to realize that. And the Obama administration was a little bit feckless, and also lacking in really values and things that they really wanted to really do. I said really twice. So they just ended up doing the Affordable Care Act, and that was their big thing.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States of America, Barack Obama.
Thank you, everybody.
But not enough changed during that time. So we had a dysfunctional politics to begin with that was not based on integrity or truth, and then the Trump era came.
When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're not sending you. They're not sending you. They're sending people that have lots of problems, and they're bringing those problems with us. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people. But I speak to border guards, and they tell us what we're getting.
I'm going to skip over all the shit to do with Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump and the election, because that's all been covered ad nauseum, and just say, when Donald Trump came in, I didn't really believe it until he actually became president, pretty much. I've talked about this before, but I remember being in this hangout and everyone was saying, Donald Trump's going to be president, and he's crushed it, like all these Trump fans, and I was just in disbelief, and I said, no, he's not going to be president. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? But then he became president, and that was kind of like the last vestiges of the idea of the respectfulness of American politics and the dignity of the office of the president. That was just completely gone. It was like completely out the window.
She's shocked that I picked her.
No.
She's like in a state of shock.
I'm not thinking, Mr.
That's
President.
okay. I know you're not thinking. You never do.
I'm sorry?
No, go ahead.
One other
Peter,
question,
let's
if
go.
I may ask, on the Russia investigation. Are you concerned that you may have
I'm not concerned
indictments-
about anything with
that you
the
may have
Russian
indictments coming
investigation
down?
because it's a hoax.
Are you-
That's enough. Put down the mic.
Mr. President, are you worried about indictments coming down in this investigation? Mr. President.
I'll tell you what, CNN should be ashamed of itself having you working for them. You are a rude, terrible person. You shouldn't be working for CNN. Go ahead.
I think that's unfair.
You're a very rude person. The way you treat Sarah Huckabee is horrible.
And she starts asking me all sorts of ridiculous questions. And, you know, you could see there was blood coming out of her eyes, blood coming out of her wherever. But she was, in my opinion, she was off base.
A few years ago, you led the birther movement. You sent investigators out to Hawaii to find out whether or not Obama, which you said was not born here.
Well,
and it
I
turned
don't
out to
know.
not be true.
Well,
so why
I don't
should
know.
they believe
According
you
to
here?
you, it's not true. I don't know.
He released his birth certificate.
You know, if you believe that, that's fine. I don't care. It's an old subject. I'm about jobs.
I'm very highly educated. I know words. I have the best words. Let us rethink old assumptions and open our hearts and minds to possible and possibilities. And finally, I ask the leaders of the region, political and religious, Israeli and Palestinian, Jewish and Christian and Muslim, to join us in the noble quest for lasting peace. Thank you. God bless you. God bless Israel. God bless the Palestinians. And God bless the United States. Thank you very much. This is an island surrounded by water, big water, ocean water. We're closely coordinated with the territorial and local governments, which are totally and unfortunately unable to handle this catastrophic crisis on their own, just totally unable to. We had actually, our original chart was that it was going to be hitting Florida directly. Maybe I could just see that, Kevin. It was going to be hitting directly, and that would have affected a lot of other states. But that was the original chart, and you see it was going to hit not only Florida, but Georgia. It could have, was going toward the Gulf. What the fuck? When you have 15 people, and the 15 within a couple of days is going to be down to close to zero, that's a pretty good job we've done. It's going to disappear. One day it's like a miracle. It will disappear. And from our shores, it could get worse before it gets better. It could maybe go away. We'll see what happens. You have to be calm. It'll go away. It will go away. Just stay calm. It will go away. We need a little separation until such time as this goes away. It's going to go away. It's going to go away. It will go away. You know it is going away. And it will go away, and we're going to have a great victory. It's going to go away, hopefully at the end of the month, and if not, it hopefully will be soon after that.
But hasn't your thinking on this evolved?
It is going away. I didn't say it, Dave. I said it's going away, and it is going away.
You were saying things like, I think it's a problem that's going to go away within a couple of days.
It will go away. But I think what happens is it's going to go away. This is going to go away. Supposing we hit the body with a tremendous, whether it's ultraviolet or just very powerful light. And I think you said that hasn't been checked, but you're going to test it. And then I said, supposing you brought the light inside the body, which you can do either through the skin or in some other way. And I think you said you're going to test that too. Sounds interesting. Right, and then I see the disinfectant, where it knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning, because you see it gets on the lungs and it does a tremendous number of the lungs. So it'd be interesting to check that. So that you're going to have to use medical doctors with. But it sounds interesting to me.
It's not like to that point I believed the president had to be a decent person. It's just it was getting beyond disbelief how bad a person you could be to be the president, and how inept and how blatantly egotistical and selfish, and just having absolutely no concern about representing anybody.
We won with young, we won with old, we won with highly educated, we won with poorly educated. I love the poorly educated.
And this was the beginning of the Trump era, and things kind of did change a little bit. The main thing that I noticed changing was the nature of conservatives and conservatism. I think in the past, when I think about the Bush era, conservatives were mostly concerned about justifying lies. That was their big thing. They would try to say, well, it wasn't a lie. They weren't lying about the weapons of mass destruction and about the yellow cake and all that stuff. They thought that they found that stuff, and Colin Powell was lied to, that there were these weapons, but, there could have been. They really thought that there was. They were really confused. So they would do anything they could to justify lies, but it's quite difficult to tell how much they actually believe their own bullshit. That's kind of an open question. And they were also concerned with just general conservative issues such as preventing gay marriage and being evangelical lunatics who do everything by the Bible and just obsessed with guns and all this bullshit.
This is not about access to guns, it's about access to schools. And I think we need to stay focused on making sure that our kids in school are secure.
Despite persistent questioning, Pence refused to get into any specifics about gun laws, such as the amount of ammunition Hoosiers should be able to carry in a magazine.
The latest version of Obamacare is a government takeover because it will mandate private citizens' purchase of health care, whether they need it or want it or not. It'll cause millions of employers to cancel the health insurance they currently offer employees and force tens of millions of Americans into government-run exchanges. And it will create a health care czar to impose price controls on private health insurance that will lead to shortages and force even more people into government-run insurance. Look, if folks want to be in the abortion providing business, they ought not to be the recipients of federal taxpayer dollars, and that's sadly the case today. That's what we're working to change.
Extending all of the Bush tax cuts, making them permanent, Since you put this in the pledge, does that imply that you all think you won't get some sort of deal in this legislative session?
Well, it's obviously it's the top of the list on our plan to get the economy moving again right now.
When the Trump era came in, it's not like all that stuff went away. It was still there. It's just this new strain of conservatism kind of rose up. And that strain was based on hate. I mean, to be perfectly honest.
I love the Mexican people and their spirit, but the country of Mexico is killing us. I want to build a wall. I'm going to build a wall.
I want to build the wall. We need the wall. And Mexico will pay for the wall. But we have some bad hombres here, and we're going to get them out.
You have this guy, Lindsey Graham, a total lightweight. Here's a guy in the private sector, he couldn't get a job, believe me. Couldn't get a job. He couldn't do what you people did. You're all retired as hell and rich, okay? He wouldn't be rich. He'd be poor. I think Jeb is a nice person. He's very low energy. I'm not used to that kind of a person. And I see Rick Perry the other day, and he's so, he's doing very poorly in the polls. He put glasses on so people will think he's smart. And it just doesn't work.
You know that in Florida, they hate little Marco Rubio so much. It's true. Because of the fact that he never votes. He never shows up to vote.
You brag that you have sexually assaulted women. Do you understand that?
No, I didn't say that at all. I don't think you understood what was said. This was locker room talk.
Every woman lied when they came forward to hurt my campaign.
Believe me, she would not be my first choice, that I can tell you.
Do you believe in punishment for abortion, yes or no, as a principle?
The answer is that there has to be some form of punishment.
For the woman?
Yeah, there has to be some form.
Such a nasty woman. Trust fund.
Liar. Just look at her pathetic email server statements. She's crooked Hillary. Don't you understand that? If you look at Bill Clinton, far worse, minor words, and his was action. His was what he's done to women. There's never been anybody in the history of politics in this nation that's been so abusive to women. Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing. Guantanamo Bay, which by the way, we are keeping open. Would I approve waterboarding? You bet your ass I'd approve it. You bet your ass. In a heartbeat. And I'd bring back a hell of a lot worse than waterboarding. I want surveillance of certain mosques, okay? If that's okay.
They're using them as shields, but we're fighting a very politically correct war.
Yeah. Well, we see that happening in
The other thing is with the terrorists, you have to take out their families. When you get these terrorists, you have to take out their families. They care about their lives, don't kid yourself. But they say they don't care about their lives. You have to take out their families.
I love the old days. You know what they used to do to guys like that when they were in a place like this? They'd be carried out on a stretcher, folks. So if you see somebody getting ready to throw a tomato, knock the crap out of them, would you? Seriously. Okay? Just knock the hell. I promise you, I will pay for the legal fees. I promise. I promise. Written by a nice reporter. Now the poor guy, you got to see this guy. Oh, I don't know what I said. I don't remember. He's going like, I don't remember. Oh, maybe that's what I said.
It was based on anger. It was based on resentment and hatred against liberals and the left and anybody that they perceived had victimized them or put them underfoot, or anyone who they thought was trying to take power away from Donald Trump. And it did also become a personality cult, an obsession with one individual person who could tell them anything that they wanted to hear, and then they would go do it.
They say, I have the most loyal people. Did you ever see that? Where I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay? It's like incredible.
And that's come into fruition in these last moments of the Trump presidency, with the storming of the Capitol and this insurrectionist riot. And the Trump era heavily impacted my enjoyment of politics and the discussion of politics online and my ability to talk about the issues, because during the Bush era and even during the Obama era, it was very easy to get impassioned about specific topics. Whereas in the Trump era, it's like everything is untethered from the truth, or untethered from anything remotely resembling reality. It's not even possible to have a debate or a conversation with a lot of people who support Donald Trump. It's like they are on a different planet You don't even know how they justify the stuff that they believe. Everything is conspiracy based. Everything is just lunacy and madness.
People are trying to figure out why isn't he giving his birth certificate. It's not a birth certificate. A certificate of live birth, and you can see that one that you have and the one that I brought you, because that's the one that's on the internet and all over the place. It doesn't even have a serial number. It doesn't have a signature. It doesn't have a signature. One that I saw on television has a stamp, but that's not a signature.
Right, but that's how they
Excuse me, but that's not the one that they were showing to everybody. And I just say very simply, why doesn't he show his birth certificate?
In one way, it will be very easy if President Obama just show it, and because it's not only Donald who wants to see it; it's American people.
You know, I think that he was born in Hawaii because there was the birth announcement put in the newspaper, but obviously if there's something there that the president doesn't want people to see on that birth certificate.
It's kind of hard to know how to approach it, and talking about substance to do with any issues around Donald Trump or Republicans, the GOP, is absolutely impossible because it's just this insane mad cult of lunatics. And of course that was fostered by Donald Trump himself, who I think made lying into just his everyday way of operating. He would just lie every single time he talked about anything, even small things, anything. He'd just lie and lie and lie and lie.
I get up this morning, I turn on one of the networks, and they show an empty field. I said, wait a minute. I made a speech. I looked out. The field it looked like 1.5 million people. They showed a field where there were practically nobody standing there. It looked like 1.5 million people, whatever it was. But it went all the way back to the Washington Monument. And I turn on the thing, and by mistake, I get this network. And it showed an empty field. And it said we drew 250,000 people. Now, that's not bad, but it's a lie. We had 250,000 people literally around, in the little bowl that we constructed. That was 250,000 people. The rest of the, 20-block area all the way back to the Washington Monument was packed.
This was the largest audience to ever witness an inauguration, period, both in person and around the globe.
And George Bush was a little bit different in that I think that he lied about specific things to do with covering his own ass, such as weapons of mass destruction and trying to cover up, torture chambers and all this sort of thing. And the idea that his policies would actually help anybody. But he never fostered this cult of personality. I mean, putting aside the whole thing of him being a Texas cowboy who clears brush and people would like to have a beer with, which was always just a ridiculous thing. Why would you care about whether you could have a beer with the president? And even if you did have a beer with him, and he was nice, accepting this premise, what would that have to do with torture chambers and the war in Iraq and his endless lies and the fact that his policies don't help you? Why would you just be fooled by having a beer? I guess that's just voters, man. They just get fooled by everything. But certainly not the same cult of personality where he was their savior and the person who could save them from everything in the entire universe and fix everything.
Nobody knows the system better than me. Which is why I alone can fix it.
So due to the herd mentality and just the hive mind of Trump supporters and how they all seem to believe the same fucking shit about everything and they just take their marching orders from their god, Donald Trump. I mean, how could that be the guy that all of you think is so fantastic? It doesn't make any sense to me. And also based on Donald Trump's behavior, which is just the same thing every single fucking day, the same lies, the same bullshit. I think if you're just relentless about something, you can succeed. So that's kind of like the inspiring message to come out of the Trump presidency, is that if you're one note and relentless about something, you're probably going to succeed at that thing. It's just, the variable there is you're probably not going to be handed millions of dollars by your dad and not given everything on a silver platter. But even then, if you just go and go and go and go at something, you can do well at that. But his repetition and his everyday doing and saying the same things over and over again really wore me down and made everything much less interesting, much less exciting. It's like there was less ideas to talk about. You can't even approach a single fucking topic with anyone on the right anymore because they're just out of their goddamn minds. What can you do? You just talk to people about masks and they're like, I don't give a fuck if I kill people with coronavirus and everyone should fucking die, and Donald Trump is my dad and I love him and he knows best and he is Jesus. And,
This is their new hoax. But you know, we did something that's been pretty amazing. We're 15 people in this massive country. And because of the fact that we went early, we could have had a lot more than that. And we are totally prepared. It doesn't mean we won't. But think of it. You hear 35 and 40,000 people, and we've lost nobody. And you wonder, the press is in hysteria mode.
We've lost more than 412,000 Americans to COVID-19. That's more than all of the U.S. military casualties during World War II. So many homes, hearts, families with a huge hole now.
I can name Kung Flu. Many call it a virus, which it is. Many call it a flu. What difference? But you don't hear them talking about COVID. COVID. To be specific, COVID-19. That name gets further and further away from China as opposed to calling it the Chinese virus.
These people are fucking nuts, you know, and they say, oh, are you saying that 70 whatever million people are fucking insane? Yeah. Yes. They fucking are. They're complete lunatics. And that just goes to show you, it doesn't matter the numbers. You can have whatever amount of people be lunatics. That's how you see entire societies turn to complete shit. I don't want to get into that whole philosophical thing about, oh, so you're saying that they had no culpability because they were crazy or whatever. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about the idea that you can expect necessarily that people are going to be so on the level and stable and high-minded that they're not going to fall for all of this ridiculous madness. There's nothing to show that that's the case. So you can see how everything has come to a head with the Capitol riots.
They can lie, they can cheat, they can steal. My father has started a movement, and this movement will never, ever die. It will never die.
Our family didn't get in this fight for just 4 years. We are in this fight to the bitter end. We are going to take our country back, okay?
We'll turn the other cheek. We'll roll over and die. We'll fold and give up. No more!
Let's have trial by combat.
Hundreds of thousands of American patriots are committed to the honesty of our elections and the integrity of our glorious republic. All of us here today do not want to see our election victory stolen by emboldened radical left Democrats, which is what they're doing, and stolen by the fake news media. That's what they've done and what they're doing. We will never give up. We will never concede. It doesn't happen. You don't concede when there's theft involved. Our country has had enough. We will not take it anymore, and that's what this is all about. And to use a favorite term that all of you people really came up with, we will stop the steal. Something's really wrong, can't have happened, and we fight. We fight like hell, and if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore. We're going to walk down Pennsylvania Avenue. I love Pennsylvania Avenue. And we're going to the Capitol, and we're going to try and give. The Democrats are hopeless. They're never voting for anything. Not even one vote. But we're going to try and give our Republicans, the weak ones, because the strong ones don't need any of our help. We're going to try and give them the kind of pride and boldness that they need to take back our country. So let's walk down Pennsylvania Avenue.
Stop protecting tyrants! Stop down!
Defend
shot in the face.
Any chance I could get you guys to leave the Senate wing?
We will. I've been making sure they ain't disrespecting the place.
Okay, just want to let you guys know, this is like the sacredest place.
One Capitol police officer discharged their service weapon, striking an adult female. She was transported to a local hospital where, after all life-saving efforts failed, she was pronounced deceased. Additionally, there were 3 other deaths reported today from the area around the Capitol grounds.
And with right-wingers being such hypocrites that it's impossible to even comprehend how they're making the arguments that they're making. Like when they're saying Antifa are the people who actually attacked the Capitol, and it's actually the left's fault.
I guess you could call these, for lack of a better word, Antifa-like tactics. We don't know if Antifa is out there.
You're going to see that 99% of this was all peaceful, and a handful of folks, and again, we've got to get to the bottom of who they are, who they're representing, decided to try and kick the doors down.
If Antifa was there, we need to root it out and to make sure that that's called out, because it shouldn't be blamed on groups that weren't responsible.
I heard those reports, too, about possible Antifa infiltration.
There have been reports that there were instigators. There is no evidence or proof.
Donald Trump himself said there was a violent mob and they are criminals and they don't represent MAGA and all this crap.
The demonstrators who infiltrated the Capitol have defiled the seat of American democracy. To those who engaged in the acts of violence and destruction, you do not represent our country. We're going to walk down Pennsylvania Avenue. I love Pennsylvania Avenue. And we fight. We fight like hell.
They were literally the people who were at his rally who he spoke to and said go to the Capitol. So he's denouncing the very people that he sent there, and then he's so elitist that he said he was going to march with them, but then he didn't even go there, and now he's throwing all of them under the bus.
And after this, we're going to walk down, and I'll be there with you. We're going to walk down.
It never happened.
And then he does this video where it's like he's trying to say, oh, you know, I didn't really want you to do that shit. I don't want violence. I don't want all this terrible stuff to happen. And that video is literally just Donald Trump, well, not literally. Hate the misuse of literally, especially when I do it. Please, Senate, don't impeach me. Please, for fuck's sake, play this video in the Senate during the impeachment trial so that I look okay.
We have just been through an intense election, and emotions are high. But now tempers must be cooled and calm restored.
It's just cover your ass. He doesn't give a single shit about that. He doesn't care. Seeing all of this absolute bullshit go on, it's kind of like, don't believe your lying eyes, just believe what I tell you. We're not so stupid that we can't see this shit. But apparently, that's what conservatives think of you and me and everybody. Just that paradigm, that aesthetic, is what makes the Trump era the Trump era. It's characterized by lying as a policy, not just covering your ass, but lying as a matter of principle, of a matter of conduct, of everyday, daily interactions for the sake of one man, Donald Trump, and for a movement which is apparently based on law and order, but I don't think that the MAGA cult is based on law and order. I think it's based on Donald Trump. It's based on just a guy. It's just based on him.
I alone can fix it.
And it's just the most lacking in substance era of politics I've ever seen. That's why it became so hard to engage with it, because people on the left are just getting extremely confused about how much they should defend people who support Donald Trump, to the point of making all these ridiculous free speech arguments about, like, oh, they're victims because they're being banned from this and that.
Twitter, run by CEO Jack Dorsey, saying after close review of the president's recent tweets, it banned him due to the risk of further incitement of violence.
When all of us on the left, or many of us on the left, have already had to face all of that shit, and we didn't get all of your concerns and all of your freakouts like the way that you're having them now. It's like every time a right wing is banned, everyone gets freaked out. And they're like, oh, well, the president's banned. Yeah, well, look at what he's done. Look at his lies. Most principally, his lies that have led to a violent riot and attack against the Capitol and incitement of a mob and an attempt an insurrection. No! So I suppose that's the summary of the Trump era and why it has made me phone out so much and not being able to get passionate about having these conversations. The repetition and the monotony of what's gone on with Donald Trump, I can't overstate that enough. The Bush era was kind of like a roller coaster in terms of lies, but the Trump era has been extremely persistent and steady, and it's basically just, I don't know, a battering ram turning you into a fucking soup. It just won't end. It's like, for God's sake, just let this be over. And that's the reason why Joe Biden won, because people are just so sick of this. They can't stand it anymore.
Bye. Thank you very much for coming. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Go have a good day. Bye.
Bye. Bing. Ding. Bye-bye. 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 Bye-bye to Iowa. Bye-bye. And to other places. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Get them out. Ready? Are you ready? Get them out of here. Get them out of here. Get the hell out of here.
And there's always those people making arguments that if you're on the left, that means you won't have anything to talk about when Joe Biden comes in. I feel like the complete opposite is going to be the case for me. I think I'm finally going to have stuff to talk about. As I said, every day and every week, it was just like, Donald Trump said and did this ridiculous, stupid thing. And I actually think that when it goes into the Joe Biden era, depending on how long he lasts, who knows, there's going to be a reason to pay attention and care, which is that it's going to be a discussion about the policy. Like, is he actually doing things that help people, or is he compromising like Obama did? And it's going to go back to a discussion of substance, and we're not going to have all of these distractions like, oh, they're persecuting people who are part of the MAGA cult and free speech and, you know, all this crap. Hopefully, it just becomes a conversation about healthcare.
One pair of pants later.
He's appointing people who are unqualified for their positions solely on the basis of their identity groups. He has a new Assistant Secretary of Health and Human Services who is transgender. That is the only headline that is positive about this person. This person also happens to have been the Secretary of Health and Human Services in the state of Pennsylvania.
Oh, shit. Here we go again.
I always go into everything being very naive, thinking this is finally going to be a substantial conversation where everyone is respectful and only cares about the facts and the issues, and that's just a stupid way of looking at things. People don't have much integrity. They don't care about whether it's to do with the issues or their own ego. Everything is completely just bunched up in self, and this is what I think, so you have to believe this crap. And obviously I've been guilty of that myself, but I think it's just, you know, the Trump era has brought that into focus to the point where it's even crippled me to say, I can't really talk about all of this stuff because I'm just buying into this cult of personality thing of, I'm better than you, because I get more attention than you, and I make a video and it's better than the fucking video you make, and what I have to say is most important, and the person who is most important is gonna be Donald Trump because he's a businessman and he's been so successful in real estate and he's such a celebrity and shit. That's what this political era has become. It's just become a personality fest, and it's boring and I hate it. I really hate it so much. We have to put an addendum on the Trump era, so to speak, as it were, and that may just be never doubt, ever, the extent to which egoism and arrogance and confidence can win out the day over competency and substance and intelligence. That is the thing which is easily weaponized. Trump has just been about leveraging his own celebrity to appeal to people who are vaguely similar to his political point of view.
We have a great country. That's my thoughts. This country is the world.
And I have a very great relationship with God, and I have a very great relationship with evangelicals.
No matter how toxic those people are, the output of that, or the result, has been that it's not actually possible to talk about politics with a lot of people. It's just become a pure, I wouldn't say ideological, because, you know, Trump supporters kind of lack values and they're just following this guy. But it's become a kind of political trench warfare, where it's just, you're entrenched in that position, I'm entrenched in this position, and the only thing that we have to do is fire at each other over the top of the trenches. There's nothing else. Like, nobody's moving forward or actually getting anywhere. Everyone's just getting trench foot, and then it's disgusting. Have you seen trench foot? It's terrible. But that's basically how I felt about politics the past few years. It's trench foot. So I'm not sad that Donald Trump is going away in terms of being somebody who has a tremendous amount of power. He's still going to be in the public eye all the time. It's going to be really annoying seeing him on news shows whining, and hopefully he doesn't get another fucking season of The Apprentice, because that would just be irritating. And I am optimistic that the Biden era is going to be one of people talking about substance and talking about policy issues, and whether this helps somebody enough, not whether the guy's saying inject yourself with bleach in order to fight coronavirus. Obviously none of that will be enough to restore my sense of respect and reverence for American power, because that ship has sailed a long time ago. But I just really hope that people come first, and it's actually about helping people through these terrible and tough times to do with coronavirus and to do with poverty and inequality and all of the difficulties people face. I really genuinely hope that that's what it's all about. And I know that these extremists who support Donald Trump, they're always going to be there. And there's all these conversations about, oh, is getting rid of these people from social media going to help or just make them more extreme? You know, fuck those people. Fuck them. I'm sick of hearing about them. They've worn me down. I've just been really tired having to deal with these assholes. If they go back in the shadows, I think that's fine. And I'm totally for that. Obviously, I'm not going to be looking forward to them coming out of the shadows and killing me and everything. But fuck, if it means that I don't have to listen to them for a bunch of years, like, that would be nice. I would prefer that these white supremacist people go underground again and turn into the Timothy McVeighs of the world. No, that doesn't sound good. You know what I mean? Well, you probably don't know what I mean. I just mean I don't want to listen to these motherfuckers anymore. And for me, the Trump era can be summarized as mindless repetition. Boredom. Now let's get on to the substance. This is no way to end a video, it's just I've been going on for way too long, so alright, see you guys.
You're putting what you're calling the alt-left and white supremacists on the same moral plane.
I'm not putting anybody on a moral plane. What I'm saying is this. You had a group on one side and you had a group on the other, and they came at each other with clubs, and it was vicious, and it was horrible, and it was a horrible thing to watch. But there is another side. There was a group on this side, you can call them the left, or you've just called them the left, that came violently attacking the other group. So you can say what you want, but that's the way it is.
On both sides, sir? You said there was hatred, there was violence on both sides.
Well, I do think there's blame. Yes, I think there's blame on both sides. You look at both sides. I think there's blame on both sides, and I have no doubt about it, and you don't have any doubt about it either. And if you reported it accurately, you would say.
Kill the person. Heather hired
Charlottesville. They showed up in Charlottesville to protest.
Excuse me. They didn't put themselves down as you. And you had some very bad people in that group. But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group. Excuse me. I saw the same pictures as you did. You had people in that group that were there to protest the taking down of, to them, a very, very important statue and the renaming of a park from Robert E. Lee to another name. Bye-bye.